Shabbat Shalom, and welcome once more for this new Shabbat tomorrow, starting this evening from Adat Yeshua Messianic Synagogue here in Norwich. And we've reached the end of the book of Numbers. And it's a wonderful new start to our Torah readings next week, but we draw to a conclusion and then we move on into Devarim. Right at the very end of all of this is an interesting scenario that starts up with Gad and Reuben wanting to stay back in Gilead, and they were accused of being divisive, they were accused of being splitters. In any way we understand that Moshe rips into them at that point. And it's an interesting scenario because, they were about to enter the land and you think, here we are, we're all going to march forward as one and take this wonderful, brave step into the promised land. And then these two tribes are like, yeah, but we want to stay back and it's nice, it looks good. And there's the text says it looks good in their eyes. They were convinced that it was useful for them. And the response then comes. And the response, I think, is interesting. Moshe ripping into them in the way he does is quite a strong rebuke towards them. And I think when you look at the situation of what's happening here, that Moshe, by this stage of his life, he's been through a lot. He's seen a lot. He's been through the desert. He's all the experiences he's had. And now he sees this apparent rebellion from these tribes. And he thinks, here we go again. And he just launches into them. He's had all this experience behind it of his history, of what's happening. And I guess it all gets too much for him and he responds in this way. And we can pause at that moment and think that his response was wrong and he maybe should have just thought about it and maybe it was too much and so on. I think we can peel back the layers a little bit further from all of that because we see here in Moshe assuming that he knows what is happening when he sees this. And this is where the problems start. He assumes he knows the tribe's motive. He assumes that he understands the full situation, and then he responds in like manner from his experiences. And this is where his problem is, because it's not true. He was wrong. And in fact, actually, when you see this, the response of the tribes as they draw near to Moshe and speak to him, and it's like, it's Moshe, no, we're going to come and fight with you, and we're going to be part of this, and we're not peeling away, and no, you don't understand what we're actually saying here, speaking almost tenderly to Moshe and trying to explain to him that his initial response was wrong because his assumptions were wrong. He didn't really fully understand, and he didn't, but he thought he did. And I think this is the critical bit that we really learn from this portion here today. The assumptions that we make. Because, we all do this. When whatever situation we look at, we talk to people or we hear what they're doing and this one's doing and they said this and they did that and whatever. And instantly we get this reaction in ourselves and go, boom, that's it. This has got to be what it is. Call it judgmentalism, call it what you want, but at the end of the day, we react in certain ways because we often become pre-configured to react in that way because of our prior experiences. And yet here we are in a brand new situation, new people, new events, new whatever, new theology, new understanding, but we've already got it in our heads that we know how we're going to respond, and that's what we do. We are not God. We don't know. We do not know the fullness of what is going on in people's lives. But the problem is that once, like Moshe here, once our minds are made up, we think we've got access to all the facts. We think we understand what we're seeing. We wade in, make judgments, start saying things, doing what we want to do. Our minds are made up. And you know what? We have to be right at that point. That's it. We've decided. And we will fight our corner because our minds are made up. Yes, I have full knowledge now. And I am going to be right and fight it to the end. But just because it was right once and in one situation does not mean that it was right again in another situation. But we always fall into this trap. If we're not careful, we do. And I want to suggest to you, Torah, Judaism, fundamentally is about justice, fairness, true righteousness, not self-righteousness. It's about being able to make true judgment calls in situations because we listen we observe, we think, we pray, we talk to people, we find out evidence, we find out facts. And just because yesterday something was true does not mean it's true today in the same way, because we have different people, different life situations to deal with. And we have to draw down and dig deep into true righteousness, justice and fairness of God if we're going to do this. The response here of Moshe was wrong, because ultimately he wasn't choosing life for those people in that sense, if you can see it that way. He was reacting in a preconceived, pre-configured theological way, but this is what it must be and you must do. And actually, had he stood back for a moment and listened and made true discernment, true understanding of that, then maybe his response would have been different. Not for nothing are we told we must not prejudge situations. You know, when we prejudge it, we are prejudicial. What prejudice is all about, because we've prejudged it. And mine's made up. This is what I've believed for a long time, and I'm not changing, and this is what it is. This is what I understand in that situation. This is what it is. But thankfully, God isn't like that. He doesn't act in prejudicial ways towards us, thankfully. You know, one of the phrases that people often say, my mind's made up, don't confuse me with the facts. You know, that statement should never be on our lips in the kingdom, should never be on our lips as Messianic Jews. Because just because in one situation it was right, doesn't mean tomorrow in a different situation it will be. We are not privy to all the facts in people's lives. We don't understand all their motives. We don't understand their backgrounds. We don't understand why really people operate and behave in the way that they do, but we think we do. And Moshe did here. He thought he did, but he was wrong. The lesson we need to learn from all of this is to just pause, listen much, speak little, and only respond in true justice, true fairness, true righteousness when we have got more of a handle on what we're dealing with. Avoid the knee-jerk reactions as we seek true justice and the true righteousness of God, because he sees everything and we trust him in every situation. Thank you for listening. I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom wherever you are in the world, and I will do another blog next week. Bye-bye.